Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your Monday has started the week off beautifully. How is everybody? What have you been up to? Let me know, you good old folks in the chat who are always here nice and early, ready for the stream to start, keeping me company in the early part, because sometimes people get the notification when it goes live, and then they take about 5 or 10 minutes or whatever to come along later. You folks are always the early birds, keeping the chat, getting it active, warming it up for everybody else to come along and join into. So thank you very much. It really is appreciated. Let's see who we've got in the chat tonight. Let's see what you're all up to. If it's your first time here, give me a little wave, say hello. Let me know what you're doing this evening. Who's doing a little bit more hobby? Who's maybe just sitting chilling with a drink? Who's been relaxing after a hard day at work? Let's have a look and see who we've got. Super Pumpkin Man was in nice and early this afternoon saying good morning everybody. Good morning to you, Super Pumpkin Man. Jonathan Dawson, hello to you as well, mate. Clyde Dashing says afternoony, eveningy, whatchamacallit. So many different time zones coming in watching these streams. You never know what to say. So yes, good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Type 40 Taurus, hello to you. Hope you're doing well, mate. We got Blizzards as well, saying he's a bit under with a cold, but I'm slapping some paint on some plastic anyways. That's the way to get over it, mate, is it? Take your mind off it. Don't think about it too much. Greg Cherry, good evening to you as well, mate. And he's saying, hola Monday amigos. Major Tom, good evening to you. Ed Haxan as well, good evening. Tony Howell saying evening you lovely lot. Good evening to you, lovely Tony. How are you doing? I saw you painting up some skin tones, mate, looking fantastic. Wayne Haywood says evening all. He's building Ahsoka for Star Wars Legion tonight. I don't think I've seen the Star Wars Legion model. I've obviously seen the Shatterpoint one, but I don't think I've seen the Legion model. Big Dave, good evening to you, mate. Sword and Stuff says, hey folks, good evening, Sword and Stuff. How are you doing? Welcome to the live stream tonight. Welcome to the chat. Matt saying good evening as well. We've got John Shepherd in saying hi people. Hello John Shepherd, how are you, mate? Where are we at? Tasty Brain Drain saying hello. RG, good evening to you, mate. He said he's just chilling, too tired from being a chauffeur all weekend. Children, who'd have them? Tell me about it, mate. I know what that's like. Gary Jensen said he's biting off more than he can chew. Can anyone relate? Oh, this will be easy. Nope, wrong again. Well, that kind of leads us nicely into what we're chatting about tonight as well. Because as you'll have seen from the thumbnail and from the title for tonight's live stream, we're talking about, do you need to focus on your hobby? So it's maybe not quite as open-ended as that, as just this kind of sort of ethereal question, if you like. It is like, you know, like, I suppose you could take it one of two ways. Do you need to focus on your hobby? Is it fine just to kind of scatter around and do whatever the hell you like? Or do you feel like actually sometimes it's worth you actually sort of knuckling down and maybe kind of sort of narrowing your focus a little bit to get things done? I'll be talking about it from my experiences, and we'll be like sort of crowds, I was going to say crowd surfing, that's not the way it runs, like sort of crowdsourcing, that's what I was looking for. Crowdsourcing what you lot think as well about focus on your hobby. But we'll get to that when we chat about the main topic. Dave Mackay, good evening to you, matey. Jonathan Dawson says he's been in these halls. Kefalonia is a lovely place. Very nice, mate. I've never been to Kefalonia, but I'm sure it is a beautiful place. Kyle Rowan, good evening, sir. How the devil are you? Nice to see you in the chat this evening. We might actually even be having a little bit of natter about Vagrant Song Encore this evening as well, as the Kickstarter goes live tomorrow. So good timing, my friend. Phil Wilkinson saying good evening all. Matt saying he's currently batch painting a bunch of Battletech mechs, a nice desert yellow. Brave, mate, with the yellow. How are you finding it? Are you just blasting the whole thing with a rattle can? Are you taking your time and painting lots of subtle different shades of sandy yellow? Tony says he's painting a bit more of his Witch Hunter mini today, working on the face mainly. Nice one, mate. Jez Hunt saying, evening fellow nerds, welcome to the gang, mate. How are you doing? Nice to see you. James Bray, good evening to you, sir, as well. Owner of Star Trek models now. Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you've got a bit of modelling on the go again. Frantic, good evening to you as well, mate. How is things on your side? VJ, good morning, mate. On t'other side of world, how's things down under, mate? James is saying he's on his first bit of hobby of the year, his Voyager model. He says 100 decals though. Yeah, that's a whole different kettle of fish, mate, when it comes to decals and stuff. And Clyde's in a different hobby, making mushroom steak sauce. Not jealous. Yeah, I am jealous, mate. I was going to say not jealous in the slightest, but I was going to say it with a little bit of a grin. I do love a good steak, mate. Hendrik, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? He says, are you going to Spiel Essen this year? I'm not, mate. I don't have any plans to go. It's one of those shows where I would love to attend at some point, but it always feels like something else sort of takes up my money, or it takes up my time, mate. So no, I won't be making Essen this year. Tasty Brain Drinks, and he's stuck at work, but he's eagerly awaiting the end of the workday. Yeah, you and everybody else, mate. So everybody looks forward to the end of the workday. Bobby Clark, nice to see you in, fella, as well. He's saying, good evening, all. He's been oil washing 40 corn berserkers today and just been on the rowing machine. Quite an aggressive day. I imagine that's kind of that's a good way to kind of get out your anger after all of that oil washing, mate. Jez is saying, you're all recovered now, Andy. I feel pretty good, mate, to be fair. I'm still, obviously, it's only been a couple of weeks since my operation. I think the stitches take a little while longer to kind of dissolve and fall away kind of thing. So I'm still kind of, I'm not pushing it too hard, mate, but I feel fine. Like, if I didn't know I'd had an operation kind of thing, I wouldn't feel like I was really suffering from it. So yeah, I think I'm healing up a lot faster and a lot sort of, a lot less painfully than I was expecting. Mark Burton giving a little wave there. Nice to see you, Mark. How are you doing? Tony saying, due to the way that I hobby, floating around is a good thing, but when I focus on a project, I do give it 100%. I'm in a happy place hobby-wise. That's good to hear, mate. I think it's like I say, it's something we'll get onto when we talk about the main topic. And I always say there's no wrong way to do the hobby. Like, however you do it is the right way for you kind of thing. But sometimes it depends upon what you're trying to achieve as to whether maybe a bit more focus might actually benefit you, or maybe not having a focus is the right thing to kind of to give you a bit of freedom and do something a bit different. So that's where we'll be chit-chatting tonight. Matt says, fortunately more of a khaki than a true yellow. I'm not a glutton for punishment. Wise words, my friend. Mark saying, mushroom steak is good, but not mushrooms. I do like a mushroom, mate, to be fair. Joey C, good evening to you. He says he's just back from work. He's painting a Vehement Broodmother while I'm listening to Andy. Well, I tell you what, mate. You'll not know where to put your eyes. That disgusting looking Broodmother or that disgusting looking me. You're a glutton for punishment yourself, mate. Phil Wilkinson said he's been working on a green and purple dreadnought. Nice, mate. I look forward to seeing that when it's done. And Tasty Brain Drain says, yes, this is true. And Sully's Emporium, what a name. Nice to see you in, Sully. Says, hope everyone says, hey everyone, hope your day is or has been awesome. And I agree. What a good way to start the stream. We've got a nice little gang in already there. Nice mix of folks. Please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you do enjoy these live streams. It just kind of gives YouTube the little triggers to send the flags up and go, people are enjoying it, people are watching it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Got lots of content planned for the coming weeks. I've got a bit of a wave of ideas and a wave of enthusiasm that's been lacking a little bit over the summer with the school holidays and stuff. So there's plenty of stuff to look forward to. And yeah, it'd be very nice if you kind of click that subscribe button. Yoakum, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? You all recovered from your hiking expedition? Nice to see you back and well, mate. Somberlin saying good evening, long time no see. Hope everybody is well. First time hobbying for weeks tonight. He's working on some old school dungeon crawl terrain from the 90s. Nothing like a little bit of kind of sort of a little bit of nostalgia to get your hobby juices flowing again, eh? Mark says, not sure what HP sauce is. I usually just salt and pepper and garlic on my steaks. I'm a simple kind of guy. HP sauce, mate, is like a brown sauce in the UK. HP standing for Houses of Parliament, for those that don't know. But HP sauce is kind of, it's got like molasses and stuff like that in it. So it's got a little bit of a spicy kick to it, but not overly spicy, I would say. If you've never had brown sauce, it's kind of like, it's hard to describe it, to be fair. But I do like it on a bacon sandwich. We always get back around to talk about bacon at some point. Super Pokemon saying he's ADHD and only have 2 settings, bouncing from one thing to another or hyper-focused. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, mate. I think sometimes there is a time and a place to be hyper-focused, and there is a time and a place to be bouncing around and enjoying yourself and just doing whatever takes your fancy. Major Tom says 1 forward and focus. Playing Rebels 101, yes. Joey says Houses of Parliament. I never knew that. There you go, mate. Yes. So I think if you're not familiar with it, in fact, I'm going to even Google it and bring up a picture of the bottle for those that don't know, because the bottle does have the Houses of Parliament on it. So for some reason I completely forgot how to spell source there, which is not what we need, is it? So let's have a little look here. So there we go. We can flick across to here. So there you go. See, look, HP sauce. It has the Houses of Parliament on it. That's why it's called HP sauce. So yes, for those that didn't know, there you go. And actually, does it even tell you what it is? Does it tell you what it is? I don't even know. Other than a bacon sandwich, it's quite nice on sort of like minced meat. You know, like if you're having kind of like mincing potatoes. It's kind of like, it's nice on that as well, to be fair. Anyway. Yeah, Andy Smith says, hey, bacon and brown. There you go, mate. Yeah, and Jess is saying, yeah, brown sauce is spicy for the UK. Yeah, I guess it's not like spicy in terms of like sort of like curry spices, but it's got a little bit of kind of spice to it. James is saying brown sauce is like sugar, spices, and brown vinegar. Oh no, I mentioned vinegar. I'm already kind of glowing here. Kind of, I can feel myself getting a bit tacky now. Thanks, James. John says apparently HP sauce is extremely similar to A1 steak sauce in the USA. I've never heard of A1 steak sauce, mate, so I couldn't comment. Matt saying brown sauce on sausages and chips is also boss. You gotta have red sauce on sausages, mate. Peter Stockdale, good evening. Nice to see you in. Clyde saying, yeah, add it to a meat pie. Mark says also like A1 steak sauce in the US, but I only use it on steak that isn't cooked that well. Yeah, a good steak. I don't even tend to put like a peppercorn sauce on a good steak. I always feel like it kind of spoils it. It feels like it's like masking like a good steak kind of thing. So if I'm gonna have a nice steak, I would tend to have it like just with whatever accompaniment it comes with, but I wouldn't tend to put a sauce on it. Phil says, I feel like a slow grow army thing would be cool. A certain amount of points per month to get through the pile of potential. For what game, mate? For what game would you like? Or would you like this? Because it's hard to do a bit of an open-ended slow grow for like lots of different games all at the same time. Or I assume it would be. I've never really thought it through. Greg saying, do you guys have... is it Tapatio or Cholula? By the fact that I can't pronounce them, mate, I'm assuming we don't have those kind of things, mate. Yeah, Super Pokemon saying A1s with like a barbecue sauce, which is not the same. Yeah, like we obviously have like barbecue sauce here as well, so there you go. And RG saying on mince a nice bit of Worcestershire sauce, dark soy sauce, or even a nice dollop of Marmite. The only thing Worcestershire sauce is good for, mate, is a Bloody Mary, mate. Yeah. Other than that, I wouldn't really use it in anything. And Phil saying steak and kidney pie. I don't really like kidneys, mate. There's not many foods I don't like, but kidney is one of them, to be fair. Greg saying, do you guys eat any hot sauce? We do, mate, but it's few and far between. You'd maybe put it on like kind of like on chicken wings or something like that, or you'd put it on, well, generally on chicken, to be fair, hot sauces and stuff. Maybe on kind of like meats, like barbecue stuff, but it's not something that we would necessarily kind of eat on a regular basis. It's freely available in the shops. It's not like it's a rare thing, but I feel like it's more of a hot sauce is almost a novelty rather than like kind of like a good addition to a meal. I love the way we're having a good old chat about food tonight. Anybody that's just joining the chat tonight will be going, I thought this channel was about minis. This is all about different kind of sauces on foods. Jonathan's saying as a veggie, HP is great on halloumi. Nice, mate. Just as saying Worcestershire sauce in gravy makes it awesomer. Little bit of curry paste maybe, mate. That works. Sword and stuff saying love hot sauce, goes on everything. And John says on tacos and burritos, yeah, you'd probably put a hot sauce on something like that, And just saying, damn it, distracted from gaming. Yes, it's unheard of for us folks in these Monday night live streams to get off topic and to completely chat about random stuff, isn't it? Who would have thought that? And Anna saying, evening all. Good evening, Anna. Saying, I actually just joined as Andy was saying this is a condiment stream. And Andy saying Henderson's from Sheffield. I don't even know what that is, mate. Let me just drop my seat down a touch. I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of it. We certainly don't have any kind of fancy sauces here in the northeast, like sort of special. Ooh, is my light just falling over there? I'll just stand that back up. I must have knocked it with my chair as I turned around there. Yeah, I don't think we have any kind of fancy sort of local speciality sauces or anything like that. But there you go. So anyway, folks, what have you all been up to? I'll just saying, keep Andy off topic so he forgets. No, I'm going to get on it tonight. What have you lot been up to? What have you been playing? What games are you kind of on your lists at the moment? Because as I said before, tonight's topic is around the question, do you need to focus on your hobby? And as I said, there'll be a couple of components to it. The first one will be, do you need to focus on your hobby? As in a bit of an open-ended question, it's your hobby, there's no wrong way to do it. If you're having fun, you're doing it right, why do we even need to think about focus on something? As long as you're doing it and you're enjoying it, then you're doing it the right way. The other side of it is actually, do you sometimes spread yourself too thin that you either don't end up playing anything, you don't end up playing anything for any particular length of time, where you might love a game, but because you're hopping around between 10 other games, you never give the game your attention, or maybe you never finish anything. Maybe you never get maybe you don't get your little kill team unit finished. Maybe you don't get your Malifaux crew finished painting. Maybe you don't get your Star Wars Shatterpoint miniatures painted because I'm specifically talking about games with lower model counts, because I can understand why if you're painting an army and you're committing yourself to kind of 2,000 points and there's 150 models in it or whatever, I can understand you might want to chop and change and have a break and break things up. But if you're playing something and you're painting something that's maybe 10 models or something like that in a small squad, maybe focusing on that kind of stuff might be a good idea. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Where are we up to here? Oh, Jezza saying brown ale's a fancy sauce. It can be, mate. It can be. Wolf Trem saying he's playing 5 leagues from the Borderlands currently. Very nice, mate. You enjoying it? Tasty Brain Drain saying, well, as I've said before, I'm from South Louisiana, so it's pretty easy to get me to start talking about food. Food is a good pastime of mine. I feel like I have a weird relationship with food in terms of, I think I'm constantly thinking about what my next meal is going to be. I would happily graze all day given the access to food, and I think I use it as a bit of a boredom offset as well. If I'm feeling a bit at a loose end, or my creative mode isn't working, I think I go and graze. I pick at food, so I have to be very careful not to kind of overdo it when it comes to that kind of stuff. Let's have a little look here. Mark saying, now you'll have to paint a mini kitchen with all the spices and sauces in it. Imagine if these were all different herbs and spices, and so this is a spice rack. This is not paint. They've got cumin here. I've got a little bit of all sorts of stuff. Let's have a little look here. Dave says he's been painting a few Judge Dredd minis. No focus whatsoever for me. And he's saying he's playing Undaunted Battle of Britain. Cast painted loads, and I can't be arsed at the moment. Yeah, I go through those phases as well, mate. Jess says he absolutely needs to focus on his hobby. And Clay says, I feel accused. Greg saying had round 2 of our Necromunda campaign this weekend. Matchups on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. As an arbitrator, I'm exhausted. Great campaign game with the right group of friends. You know what is, I hear so much good stuff about Necromunda, and yet I hardly ever see it played. It's one of those things where I feel like people spend more time writing a backstory, planning a crew, painting models, getting cool terrain done. I never see anybody playing it. It's a weird one. I would love to see people playing it, but yeah, I tend not to see anybody kind of getting it out. Andy saying he's been on shift, not been in the mood, or unboxing Saturday night. Yeah, there's definitely times when you're like sort of not feeling it, where the mood just doesn't take you, and one day can lead into two, and two can lead into a week, and a week leads into a month, and before you know it, you haven't picked up the brushes in a while. How's the boxing going, mate? You're doing some of that kind of blue collar boxing stuff, I believe, aren't you? How's that been going? Have you been doing much training for it and stuff? Yeah, Type 40 Tortoise says, I get about 95% done and then get distracted. I think the difference is depends on whether sometimes 95% is good enough. Like I'm assuming everybody's kind of heard of the 80-20 rule. That like, bloody hell, why does that keep falling over? How close is that? Let me just. I don't even think I'm that close to it. I don't know what's pulling on it. Yeah, the 80-20 rule, where basically kind of like 80% of the work is done in 20% of the time, and the last 20% can take 80% of the time, where you kind of everything's fine tuning and trying to perfect things and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes getting 80% of it done is good enough. Sometimes that's all you need to do, and the last 20% is just like finessing things, and actually sometimes doesn't actually add anything to it. Matt saying, I consider getting rid of my Horus Heresy stuff because I can't see myself getting them onto the table where there's a butt ton of other stuff I'm paying attention to. Yeah, that's kind of where I am at, and a little bit of what prompted this conversation tonight as well. So, I'm trying to get a comfy height for my legs. I feel like I've the little one's been, actually my wife's been working in here today, and I think she's been messing around with the chair heights. Jonathan Dawson said, I've focused on the Vampire Chapters game and Oathsworn, which I play alternately every week, and when they end, I'll be back on the skirmish games. I feel that you're pretty focused, mate. You know what you're doing. You set yourself up and you're on it. Mark's saying he's still printing and painting his ultimate dungeon set. I have the bases all primed, but still working on all the module bits and bobs. Yeah, I think like long-term plans like that as well are quite nice just to kind of come back to from time to time as well, and break them up. Wolf Trem is saying 5 Leagues is a great game. I can easily get games in. That's good, mate. If you're getting games in of any game, I think it can be a good game as well. Ed saying he played Kill Team Thursday, Shatterpoint Saturday last week. 2 great games. This week will be Wrath and Glory and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, with maybe a skirmish game Saturday too. How do you find tracking all of those different games? Is it just the fact that you play very regularly that you kind of remember them all? Because I must admit, it's something I struggle with, is coming back to a game after a little break away to play other stuff. Is trying to get my head back in that kind of like in that zone type of thing. Jess is saying Wolf Term is just about to start a 5 Leagues game. He's built them and he now needs to focus and paint them. John saying, I mainly paint now, not really gaming much with work. All my clubs or friends I used to play with. Now I work these days. I only have only game when I have holidays. Yeah, I think that's what I was saying really about it, is that sometimes not necessarily having a focus is just and being able to kind of, especially if you're someone that just likes to paint minis or just likes to build miniatures or kit bash and stuff like that, just doing whatever takes your fancy. Like that's your hobby, that's where you get your energy from, kind of thing, and there's nothing wrong with that in the slightest. But I'll 2 or 3 minutes I'll come on to kind of my own personal journey, my personal experience about where this has really come from for me. Sean saying, hello mate. Hello Sean. He says, I keep painting but I don't play any of the actual games. What would you recommend for a solo or small group for beginner games? It's quite a difficult one, mate. I mean it sounds like a bit of a cliche really, but whatever you like. Like it's certainly, if not so much when it comes to solo games, but for a small group, whatever you all really kind of agree on, or if there's a game that you're all interested in, you're more likely to kind of stick at it and kind of build your models and paint your models and play your games if it's something everybody's interested in. If it's just something that one person's really interested in and everybody else is kind of going, that's not really my bag, but if everybody else is playing it, I'll give it a go, you'll tend to find people will waver and kind of drift away and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but generally whatever everybody's interested in. That said, I would suggest you start with something that has a low model count. So something like Kill Team, Dead Zone. Maybe if you're new to it, Malifaux might not be the best kind of thing. I'm a big fan of it, but it's like maybe it's a little bit more complex for a first timer or a beginner. Star Wars Shatterpoint's not a bad kind of entry point. People generally know the Star Wars world, and that's a bit of a shortcut of kind of like, oh, I know what that dude with a lightsaber does. I know Stormtroopers have rifles and they shoot. That kind of shortcuts a lot of stuff. The Marvel game is another good reason for that kind of stuff. If you like something bit more fantasy, Moonstone's a good shout. Really kind of quirky kind of fantasy miniatures and stuff. And the other side of it is it's not hard to recommend things like Kill Team and Warcry as well, which are low model count games. There's generally a Games Workshop or a hobby store that sells GW stuff, fairly accessible for most people. And I wouldn't necessarily say things like Kill Team and Warcry are too expensive to get into either. So that's where I would suggest from them kind of stuff. When it comes to solo stuff, again, it really depends upon what you want to play, but there's plenty of like solo rules out there for games. What would I recommend? I tend not to play solo games, so I find it hard to recommend anything that I play. But there are certainly games like the 5 Leagues from the Borderlands, 5 Parsecs, things like Silver Bayonet, things like I don't think you can play Frostgrave solo. Maybe you can, but like there is quite a lot of kind of good miniatures rule sets out there. But it really does depend upon what kind of games you're into. RGC, I need to focus. I gave up on Rank and Flank because I couldn't focus and got bored. But I'm that player collector, and sometimes I forget to play. I need to use what I already have. Yeah. Type 40 TARDIS is saying he's still packing to move, so no painting done in a week and a half. That does make it hard, mate. Greg saying he's got hot sauce rack about the size of that paint rack. Girlfriend says my taste buds are dead. Is that the thing where he just gets hotter and hotter because nothing works anymore? Jess is saying it looks like someone waving a lightsaber behind Andy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'd moved it. I've just moved my chair around now. I must have been close enough that I think my chair was getting caught on the charging cable. I think that's what it was. So we'll move it along a little bit. Greg saying Necromunda isn't a game to play, pick up in a club or a store. It's a game of dedicated friends who won't get sour from all the inherent imbalance built into the game. Two things to your question, or to your point there, Greg. One is I completely agree. I think it's a thing where you want to commit to it. You want to play a campaign. You want to get the same people back and that kind of stuff. The other side of it is to pick up games still really exist, and this might be something we might chat about in another live stream at another time. But I think that the era of like turning up to a game store, certainly in the UK, I don't think it's ever really been a thing. But the idea of just turning up to a game store and hoping to pick up a game with another random stranger that's there looking for another game, I don't think that they exist anymore. I don't think they're a thing that people do. I think the vast majority of people have pre-arranged games. It might still be with strangers, but it's all kind of pre-arranged online. So you're kind of like, you're not just turning up on the chance that somebody's going to play a game. There's generally like an agreement in advance, or we'll play this game in this many points and I'll see you at Wednesday at 7 o'clock kind of thing. So I don't think the traditional pickup game is still there. And I think the other one is, I think people sometimes, what they would call a pickup game is when there's, when you get like a group of maybe, like when I used to play a War Machine, there was a group of about 10 of us all used to play a War Machine, and the idea was we always went to the same store at the same time every Saturday morning, and we just, whoever had turned up, we'll play a game against them kind of thing. And you might call that a pickup game, but it's still pre-arranged, and you're playing with other people that are there for the same kind of thing. So I don't think pickup games generally happen so much now. John Ashley Smith, good evening, John. He says, good afternoon, I should say. So he's caught another live stream. Always an interesting topic for discussion. Yeah, well, I'll get through these last couple of messages here, and then we'll crack on with the main topic, to be fair. There's more chat than I thought. It's suddenly just a big slug of messages all come through at once. VG says, I've really struggled a hobby or even board game recently. Work's been getting me down and I've felt really flat. you know what, mate? I can sympathise with you, and all I can say is that sometimes you've got to go through that to get out the other side. Work can be kind of grind you down, and work can get on top of you because you're busy and you've got a lot on. And sometimes you just need to force yourself almost to get back into the hobby. But yeah, I think it'll get better. It sounds like a well-trodden phrase, but it always gets better, mate. Haxan saying, nearly finished painting his Bloodborne collection. His Oathsworn Terrain box arrived this weekend, so I've painted the trees, nearly completed the walls and primed the houses. Nice bit of work there, mate. Andy saying, not much training as I should. Started unlicensed boxing for fun, getting people motivated to train and get them into the ring in a safe, controlled way. Nice, mate. Sean saying, some random bits from 40k and AOS. I just buy stuff I like the look of instead of building up an army. I'm happy to buy new minis for a game I'd enjoy, though. I think if you already got some random bits, mate, something like sort of Kill Team or Warcry might not be the worst place to start, mate, to be fair, in that case. Haxan saying he managed to get a game of Warcry on Sunday afternoon. Peter saying he's still focused on Dark Angels, finishing the bases on 18 more Marines tonight, and then 2 more tack squads to paint an army done onto the next force. Nice one, mate. And Andy saying he needs to get back into Infinity with Fast Panda. Infinity's another game that's like low model count. If only I didn't have the frustrations with building the models, I might enjoy it a bit more, I think. Jez is saying, Sean, have a look at some of the mini agnostic games, see if you can find free rules and see if you enjoy. If you do, have a look about some rules to buy. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, even things like one-page rules are pretty simple and straightforward and free online. And especially if you have some GW models, they were almost designed for using GW models with before all of the STL file stuff came along. Mark saying, will be about 3,000 pieces when I have it to what I want. I have 1,000 pieces left to print. Want to have them up primed and then try and get a good base coating done at the same time. Wow, that seems like a big project, mate. And Joey saying, played the first intro game of Dead Zone with his 10-year-old son this last week. Had a ball, but rolled so many exploding 8s my son's rats just couldn't win. I tell you what, mate, don't get used to it. The dice will desert you, I promise. Ed saying, I have a few core games I know the rules of well, and honestly the tactics for skirmish games don't change much between systems, just how you achieve them. I think you certainly come across, Ed, as somebody that plays a lot of games in terms of not necessarily different systems, but you just play regularly. I think that's probably where I probably struggle, is I don't play as regularly as you do. Therefore, every time I get back to something, it feels like I'm relearning the rules sometimes. Let's have a little look down here as well. Clyde saying, pull-up allies are good for any small-scale skirmish. 1 to 10 minis aside, you make your characters apply scenarios. Yeah, good one, mate. Peter's saying, you can indeed play a Frostgrave solo. Yeah, I had a feeling that you could, but then after I'd said it out loud, I was thinking, oh no, maybe you can't. But yes, you can, mate. Thank you. Superpunk Man saying, I think my group has the problem of having too many interests. I think we'll come on to that as well, but I think not only for, like, should you focus on your hobby, I think sometimes when you're in a wider group of people, if everybody's a bit of a magpie gamer and they like kind of scattering around doing their own thing, it's like trying to herd stray cats sometimes and that kind of stuff. Mark saying, sometimes it's fine to switch to another game to paint or work on. It's a hobby, so you do it as you enjoy it. Yeah, I agree with that, mate. Superpunk Man saying, luckily the only minis game we play are 40k X-Wing, and because of me, Warcry. Good one, mate. Mark saying, painting minis is relaxing. I often just print something just to paint it. Yeah, that's how I started in this hobby, mate. Painting purely just as a relaxing something to do in kind of like in an evening and things like that. So I agree with that one. A bit of chat going backwards and forwards stuff. Sunderland saying he's painted mostly, he's played mostly RPGs in the last months, finding it hard to focus on painting projects and staying with one game these days. Nonetheless, I'm thinking about getting it into Moonstone soon. Yeah, I agree, mate. And John saying, a good way to maintain focus is to not look to see what's new every day. The shiny new model game is always a motivation killer. If you don't know about it, you can't want it. And do you know what it is? I think that that's probably not a bad place to start, because I think like certainly the internet and social media and all that kind of stuff has changed the way we hobby. And because I think we do it, and I'm part of the problem as well as part of the solution, I would like to say. But I'm part of the problem as well. I'm like, it's my job to do this now. I look for new and interesting things to tell you about, and so therefore I am constantly telling you about new games, new minis, new rules, new paints, new sort of accessories, new tools. And it's always the cult of the new. It's always what next? What's next? What's coming down the line? What are we excited about? I'm always trying to bring you interesting stuff, things that you haven't seen before, things that are new news that maybe you don't get on other channels. And so I think we are bombarded with like sort of all of the new stuff that's out there, and that doesn't help with us when it comes to being focused in our hobby. And so, like I said before, there's kind of two aspects to it. One is, do you need to focus on your hobby? And I think it depends upon what we define as focus, because if you're just constantly sort of picking something up, starting to paint it, putting it down, getting distracted and maybe painting something else and never getting back to the first one, and you feel like you just keep spending money but you're never actually achieving anything, you're never finishing anything, then maybe a little bit of focus might not be a bad thing. If your hobby is just painting, it doesn't matter about getting it to the table, you're never going to play games with these models, you're not interested in kind of painting full armies or even full squads, but you're finishing the projects that you're starting. So I'm going to paint this one mini today or this week, and you're finishing it and then you're moving on to something else, then I think that's fine. You can kind of scatter around, you can be unfocused in the kind of stuff that you're doing, but I think it sounds like you would have focus to be finishing something before you start something else, or certainly working on a couple of projects at once, but getting to the end of what you're trying to do. The other side of it is, and what really prompted this was, I'm somebody that has always enjoyed playing multiple games. I love the hobby. I love like sort of seeing what's new out there. I love a new starter set. I love kind of playing lots of different games. I like painting lots of different miniatures. And then added into that the fact that I do this for a living now and that I talk about different games all the time, I probably spread myself very, very thin across lots and lots and lots of different game systems. I'm a big fan of Star Wars Shatterpoint, and I want to be painting that more, and I want to be playing it more. I'm a massive fan of Malifaux, and I never get to play it as often as I'd like to, and I've painted up sort of factions for it. I've painted up my little war bands, or crews I should say, and I never get to play it as often as I want to. It's a game that deserves to kind of be played multiple times to get the finesse and to get the best out of the game, but then I get sidetracked by Marvel Crisis Protocol, I get sidetracked by maybe diving into a bit of Kill Team, I get sidetracked by a bit of Kings of War, by a bit of Moonstone, and before you know it, I'm not finishing any projects, I'm not playing any games, I'm not actually kind of achieving anything other than being a bit of a busy fool and kind of spinning from project to project. And it spills over into what I do when it comes to videos. I get an idea for something and I'll start working on something, and then I get an idea for something else and I maybe don't finish the first one, and so that like 2/3 of the work's being done to making a video, and I never get to finish it because I've kind of moved on and I've done something else. And I feel like that it's got me being unfocused and being in a bit of a scattergun approach. Is just it starts to snowball, and before you know it, you're not really finishing anything off. So for me personally, I need to focus on my hobby a little bit. I need to kind of maybe narrow down not so much what I do for a job, but narrow down the games that I want to play in my free time, and which are the ones that really do kind of fill me with energy, which are the ones that I actually really do enjoy, and actually try and find people who want to play those games with me and try and set up regular games, because I'm terrible at trying to kind of sort of communicate with folks and set up games and that type of stuff. And I'm generally, I used to be a pretty organized person, but I feel at the minute I've lost focus a little bit, and I'm lurching from project to project. So that's where the idea of this has come from. And I want to kind of ask you lot, like, what do you think? Do you feel like you spread yourself too thin? Are you good at sort of setting yourself up with small, manageable projects and actually finish them before you move on to something else? Do you feel like all you ever do is half paint a model, or half paint a warband, or half paint a unit? Or do you get distracted by the new shiny thing that comes out? So you're halfway through painting this model, and before you know it, you've already lost the inspiration and lost the energy to finish and complete that, because there's a new warband coming out, or there's a new army coming out, or there's a new game coming out, or there's a new faction coming out, or something like that. Do you feel like you're lurching from thing to thing? Or do you feel like you're in a good place? And if you are in a good place, what tips would you give to other folks? What would you say is what helps you to focus and to stay kind of on the path to finishing your projects? Let's have a little look in the chat here, and we'll see what folks are saying. Let me scroll back a bit here. Spoonie saying, I can't be bothered to play games at the moment, sadly. Why not, Spoonie? What's making you not be bothered? And I'm asking this reason because I go through the same thing from time to time, and I'm wondering what's kind of pushing your buttons at the minute. John actually Smith is saying work is a 4-letter word, just pointing that out. VJ saying, I know it's all part of a cycle and I bounce back, just wish there was enough time in the day to do everything I want to. Yeah, there is that, mate. I think, and it's just, sometimes it's understanding that you're going through something, and this is just like, this is not how it will always be, and just accepting you are where you are, and it'll get better kind of thing. I think sometimes just taking stock of that sometimes helps. AMC says, I buy lots of games so my friends get dizzy. I think my wife despairs. I think we're all guilty of that kind of stuff, to be fair. Calci and I work to afford food and miniatures, not in that order either. I would definitely prioritise the food over the minis. Greg saying, I kind of need to paint. It really helps stress and anxiety for me. You know what? When I'm in the right frame of mind, and when I'm, like I said before, recently I was starting to. Basically, I wasn't painting because I couldn't even see the miniatures properly. I was starting to struggle, and I bought some of those cheap reading glasses, and it's kind of reignited my love of painting again. But recently, I've been on a bit of a kind of like a 3D printing kick, and I've been trying to set up my resin printer. I've got loads of these little kind of, you won't be able to see them on the camera there, but these little test prints, and I'm writing on the back test 1 and different exposure settings and stuff like that, and then doing these little mini, will that focus? These little mini kind of test prints to try and get all my settings dialed in, and then from that, I've then, it says reaching over, I've then been sort of printing off some of these. So these miniatures are free files from One Page Rules. So if you go to the One Page Rules website, they've got like a starter box, like an intro box with some free files, all the free rules and stuff. So I thought I'd download and print some of those off just to test my settings and stuff. And it feels like I've kind of nailed it now. And for a long time I've put off sort of messing about with resin for miniatures stuff, because I always used to get like a lot of like failures and things like that. But I feel like, touch wood, I might have actually kind of found the right settings now for my printer and for the resins that I'm using. So yeah, so I haven't been painting so much this week. I've been doing a lot of 3D printing this week, and kind of gearing up for some video stuff that I've got planned in the future. But yeah, I must admit, like I do like the therapeutic kind of relaxing nature of just painting and just putting paint on a model. John saying, yeah, social media has changed this hobby in a huge way. If you wanted to find out what was new in the old days, you bought obscure gaming magazines or went to the friendly local gaming store, a much more sedate pace. I think as well, it was like releases were a lot less frequent, but there wasn't always this urge to constantly buy the latest thing or buy the new thing, or fear of missing out, or pressure from like everybody else is buying this new thing, I should buy this thing as well, because you just didn't know what other people were buying. Like you would probably, your purchases would be very heavily influenced by the people that you played games with, and maybe you saw something in a White Dwarf magazine or something like that, but you'd generally have to go to the hobby store and see what was on the shelf, really. I mean, the marketing for games companies, like they've got it easy now in terms of being able to get their message out and tell people about the new stuff. I'm not saying they all do a good job of it, but they have got it easy in terms of they've got a ready-made sort of route to market in terms of telling people about their new stuff. Years ago, anybody but GW, who had kind of their White Dwarf magazine, was really sort of struggling in the opportunity to get in front of new people. Really, wargaming shows, wargaming conventions, and touring around hobby stores and things like that was really how they got the word out. Clyde saying spread thin like Marmite on too much toast. Not enough sauce for the pasta. Yes. I always like the juice is not worth the squeeze or something like that. Mark says, I don't use social media much. It's mostly when I feel like browsing. I don't have any groups that I play war games with, just RPGs. And Matt saying, I keep a tick list on what you want to get done, what you have done, and what you have finished is useful for keeping on top of things. I mean, some of the tips I would give, and I'm maybe not the best person to be giving out these tips, but I know what I should do, is generally I try not to have too much on my worktop at any one time. I like to try and keep my hobby area quite tidy and only have the things that I'm working on in front of me. At the minute, it's Star Wars Shatterpoint. I've got some Shatterpoint miniatures that I'm sitting painting, so they're on my desk here next to my paints and stuff. But I'm not like surrounded by other stuff. And that's the way I try and kind of like focus on things. Let's have a little look here, because that's skipping around there as I try to scroll up. Wow, the chat's all over the place tonight. I apologise, folks. I'm just trying to catch up back where we were. Clyde said, I'm just happy more painted minis on a shelf. One day I'll finish an army, but it shall not be this day. Big Dave says, I've got far too much on my to-do pile, although I'm trying to base my Dark Angels most on plain black bases. EMC saying, focus is key, but I struggle with focus. Always look for new shinies and lose focus. Would love to focus on, say, 1 to 3 games, otherwise probably just bounce around and get nowhere. Yeah, I definitely need to try and narrow down my expectations of what I could play. Like, it's nice to paint lots of different things, but in reality, what am I actually going to get to the table? Where can I find folks who want to play the games that I want to play? Where can I kind of go to sort of to get to use some of my spare time? Really, I feel that I need to get better at making the first move and reaching out to people, saying, would you like to play a game, and kind of stuff, and not just like, it's not going to drop on my lap kind of thing. So if I want to play Malifaux, for example, I need to go and find people who play Malifaux in the local area, and there are people, I'm sure there will be. If I want to play Star Wars Shatterpoint, I need to find people locally who play Star Wars Shatterpoint, and rather than just kind of sitting there waiting for it to happen, yeah, I think that's more about me though. That Matt says, my pile is way too high to think about in the new shiny. I've only got a limited time on this world. We have, mate. We have only got a limited time. However, you should use that time fully, and you only live once, of course. Jess is saying, I'm going to base these minis for 5 leagues. You've given me focus. Do it, mate. I want to see what they look like when they're done, mate. I love your painting stuff. So yeah, you do it, mate. There's a little bit of an inspiration, or a little bit of a gentle nudge. Get them done, mate. I want to see them. Gary says, I get stuff done, but Necromunda is so huge that I'm always buried, but I love it. Necromunda, I would not suggest that as a game that is so huge. Is that just your ambition is bigger than the time available? Are you trying to paint everybody else's miniatures? Are you trying to paint lots of terrain for narrative stories? What makes Necromunda? Because in my head, Necromunda is not like painting like a 40k army or something like that. Sword and Stuff says, I'm pretty good at finishing projects, but I've also abandoned my fair share. You and me both, buddy. So long as I find the miniatures I'm painting are fun and interesting, then I'll finish. And I think that goes back to what I was saying about getting distracted by the new shiny, or getting distracted by some idiot YouTuber telling you about all these new games that are coming out and stuff like that. Blizzard says, I've pretty much given up hope of finding anyone who plays any mini games in my area. I'm just looking into solo games while I tackle this Mount Everest of opportunity of mine. a little bit of me wants to cry inside when I hear that Blizzard's, because I'm sure there must be somebody in the area who's like wants to play a game, but then I'm not very good at reaching out either, so I'm in no place to be giving out advice. VG saying, so much of my work is project based. Thinking of my hobby from that perspective makes it feel too much like work. I think that's why I've switched mainly to board games from mini games, so I can just open a box and play. Yeah, and I get that, mate, and I think there's a lot to be said about the immediacy of just being able to do it. I think it's one of the reasons I've enjoyed going back and playing video games a little bit lately, is the idea of just, I've got half an hour, I'm going to go online and I'm going to play a game, and I can either play that game online with like one of my sons, I can play it online with my youngest son, like who's in the next room on his console, or I can kind of just play the game solo as well. But I don't have to think about the prep work for it as such. RG saying, if you saw the part started stuff, you know I need to focus. I've got 5 parsecs campaign stalled because I need to fix the scenery, but I've been needing to fix the scenery for 6 months. Yeah, I feel that pain, mate. Mark saying, yeah, I have to use a magnifying headset. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. I've definitely kind of realised lately just how bad my eyesight's become. And like I was cleaning out my 3D printer recently. I was kind of giving it had been switched off for a little while. I wanted to print some stuff out, and I decided to kind of give it a good bit of maintenance and clean it down and stuff. And I was trying to get the nozzle cleaner, the needle, into the end of the nozzle, and I just couldn't focus on the actual nozzle itself to be able to see where like that pinhole is. So I had to put those kind of like, I'm going to embarrass myself and pop them on. These were literally £1.99 from like a local cheap shop reading glasses. There you go. That's what a complete fool I look in them things. However, these cheap £1.99 pair of reading glasses has enabled me to start hobbying again. And so whilst I might look like some kind of somebody on a register, they are enabling me to actually hobby again. And I had to put them on when I was cleaning out the 3D printer and trying to put the nozzle in the tiny little hole. And it's just anything that is fine detail up close. Like I'm sitting here reading my laptop, reading all of the chat and stuff like that. So for 99% of the time, it's not a problem. And I didn't realise just how bad it had got until I tried to go back and painting again. And it was just like, no, this is terrible. Mark saying it happens when you get over 50. In that case, it's going to get worse when I get over 50, mate. Haxan saying, I generally break my painting projects, so I'll paint a core box to play with it and then go back to expansions later, and I'll throw in odd little projects to keep it interesting. I think we're in this kind of era of the constant release schedule of stuff. I mean, if you're into sort of like board games and things, you know, when you're backing stuff on Kickstarter and everything comes with like 10 expansions and things, especially if they've got miniatures in, it can be a bit overwhelming, really. So yeah, it's hard to just like say I'm just going to paint the core set. I've done the same thing with Star Wars Shatterpoint, to be fair. I bought Shatterpoint and I bought 2 expansion boxes on launch day, and I promised myself I wasn't even going to break the seal on the expansion boxes until I've painted all of the core set. And I'm not going to buy any of the other new releases, even though I really want the Mace Windu set, even though I really want the Cad Bane set. I'm not going to buy any more of the release boxes until I've painted what I've actually bought already. So I'm kind of like, I'm keeping myself quite focused on that side of things, but then it's not getting painted. I've recently, in the last like few weeks, started to kind of paint things again, but yeah, I've had to try and like focus down on like, don't just like buying stuff is not necessarily hobby in itself. It's making a bigger pile of stuff. Mark saying, oh sorry, you already done them ones. Yeah, Greg saying, I definitely credit my unrelenting hobby focus to A, not having kids. That certainly helps. B, having a partner who's supportive of the hobby, and C, friends who appreciate my work and are always keen to play. I think it's a big thing. I mean, I've got 3 boys, 2 older ones and a younger one, so there's always something family going on. My wife's quite often away with her job and stuff like that as well, so you'd think that would give me more time, but actually when you're kind of doing all of the household chores and the parenting side of things while my wife's away at work, it chews up more time than you think. And then also, because my wife's away, like when she's home, we want to spend time together, and we want to do things together. So it's not always like when I was chatting last week about kind of not playing games as often as I like. It's easy to go, well, you've got every night of the week and you've got every weekend. Why could you not play like loads of games? And it's like, well, because there always seems to be something that's sort of like chewing up that time. Like it never feels easy to be able to just go, oh, tonight I'm going out tonight kind of thing. It feels like it's something that needs to be planned well in advance because of everything that's going on. And maybe I need to get better at kind of planning ahead. Jonathan says, I did spread myself thin, but put in place a few things to help. I set goals at the start of the year. This year it was paint more than I buy and paint up a couple of key games. Nice one, mate. That's the way to do it. VGC, nice to hear you finally having some success with resin, mate. It definitely opens up a whole new world of minis. It does, mate, and I never really bought my 3D printer to print minis. I've always enjoyed like sort of buying the right minis for the game kind of thing. But I think things have moved on a long way since I bought my printer. I mean, I've got an old Elegoo Mars 2 Pro. The new ones now, like 12K printers and stuff like that, with much bigger build plates, are far more flexible and can print a lot more interesting stuff than I ever could on this. Like, I'm lucky if I get kind of like 6 miniatures on a print plate, so it takes quite a long time to print off like armies of stuff. But I'd consider upgrading my printer. I'd consider buying a bigger one if I thought I was going to use it, and this is the start of kind of trying to get into that type of thing. And things like one-page rules have got there. In fact, I'll bring it up and I'll kind of show you. So for those of you that are not familiar with it, I'll bring it up and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So, one-page rules, the company you'll know who basically do sci-fi and fantasy games where their rules, the core rules for their games come on one page. 2 sides of one page, but they do fit on one page. And they do Grimdark Future, which is essentially like a 40k type game, Grimdark Future Firefight, which is a bit like Kill Team, Age of Fantasy, a bit like Age of Sigmar, and Age of Fantasy Skirmish, which I wouldn't suggest is like Warcry, but it's the Kill Team version of kind of fantasy, if you like. And then they do some other games as well, like space battle games and regiment battle games as well. And if you subscribe to them on Patreon, you can also get lots and lots of STL files to be able to print off full armies for their games as well. And you can just go to my mini factory and buy the files that you want, or you can subscribe to their Patreon. Now, they've recently just released a new 3rd version of this. And if you, where was it up to? Let's say go to the get started part of here. They have a free quick start set. And in that quick start set is all of the rules that you need. There's a really good introductory set of kind of like, here's how to get started playing the game. But there's also a whole host of STL files for you to print off 2 kind of armies worth of models, plus measuring sticks and tokens and a bit of terrain to give you a chance to try the game out. There's also a version as well for the fantasy game. So if you're more into fantasy than you are into sci-fi, you can do the same thing as well. And that's what I've been printing out. That's what these minis are for. I've been printing these ones just from the files that they provide in the free set. So the idea was I'll print out enough for the kind of for the Kill Team-esque version, if you like, the Grimdark Future Firefight, and I'll try it out and I'll make a video of, like, can you really just play a game for free? Is that enough to kind of get you started and just try it out and see what you think? So yeah, so I'm kind of, that's where I've started with printing these ones out, and that's why I was talking about one-page rules. I think to be fair to them, it's a really good thing to actually. It's like their starter set, if you like, their 2-player starter set is literally free. It's free rules, it's free miniatures files. There's even like 2D versions of the files, so if you just want to print them out on paper and use little paper standees to give the game a try, they're all included as well. Joey C says, I flit about between different projects and figures a lot, but when I have a particular miniature game to paint a set for, I can get a lot done. I find painting hugely relaxing too. Yeah, I find it quite relaxing as well, but I must admit I'm not a fast painter. When I'm in that kind of relaxed zen mode of painting, it can take me a long time. I don't feel productive in that time, but hey, it's relaxing, so who needs to be productive sometimes? Skulldoggy saying, I struggle with the last 10%, but the big distractions for me tend to come from the minis I already have. I kind of bounce around with what I'm excited about, and that's reflected in my painting. Yeah, I think not just you, mate, to be fair. Archie says, at work we have component codes, not quite finished. NES is not even started, and NQF is not quite finished. I have a lot of NES and NQF at home. Where are we up to here? God, it's jumping around all over. Mutton Chops saying he had hobby burnout at the start of the year, didn't pick up a brush for a couple of months, and then decided I would paint for at least 30 minutes a day or put at least a single colour. 150 minis finished. It's excellent that you've managed to kind of kickstart that again, mate. Well done. Jonathan saying, I've also started to run an inventory of games I have. God, I dare not even go down that route. I'm actually going to try and sell a lot of stuff now. It's my oldest son's 21st birthday in November. The twin sons, so obviously there's two of them, having a 21st birthday. And I've promised to take them away. And I think a good way to help fund that is to sell some of my unused pile now. So I'm going to be selling stuff like, I've got the Gears of War board game, which sells for quite a chunk of money. I think I'm going to sell off my Silver Tower box and all the minis that come with it, because I'm not going to play that anymore. I've kind of played through that campaign many times, and I'm probably never going to use it again. Like I've got starter sets for Carnivale. I've got starter sets for things like Dystopian Wars. I've just got piles and piles of stuff I'll probably never get around to, and I need to narrow. It's going to help me narrow down my focus, but it's also going to help me narrow down the amount of stuff on the shelf and get some money back in my wallet. Mordecai says, one-page rules do have official recommended print settings for some printers and resin, which might be worth checking out. I didn't realise that, mate, but to be fair, the Elegoo website had some recommended printer settings as well, and I did a bit of research about, like, let me just, like, when I was printing these things off, like I say, I've got, like, you know, like test 1, test 2, test 3, when I was making little bits of adjustments, and it's helping me to understand what changing one or two of the settings does to the quality of the print. Like I think I had the exposure settings for the initial base layers to kind of stick it to the plate. I think I probably had them a bit high. I think I had the exposure settings for the actual sort of the layers. I don't think I had those right. And so I was getting some kind of failures. I was quite often getting things where they were breaking away at the tips of the supports and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like I feel like my settings are right now. I feel if something goes wrong now, it's probably in something like the way the model's being supported or something like that now. John says, I popped over to Midland Miniatures last week, picked up some paints, gaming sleeves, and 3 board games. 2 reprints, Kingmaker Judge Dredd board game. Ready, set, bet. Nice, mate. VG saying, what's this spare time you speak of? You know what it is, mate? I feel it's not very often I feel like I just have time on my hands, if you like. I feel like there's always something, and even if that's something, and it sounds daft, but even if that something is just sitting watching a TV show with Lou, like, it still feels like, you know, we've both been working all week kind of thing. It's the weekend. Let's spend some time together. Let's go out for the day kind of thing. It's not like I have to do it, but I want to spend time with the family and stuff. So even when it comes to a weekend, it's not easy just to go, oh, well, I'm gaming all day Sunday because that's what I'm doing kind of thing. I think that's why I used to maybe like sign up for a lot of like tournaments and stuff in the past, because once they're in the diary and they're kind of planned and ahead of time, it's like, well, I'll work around it because that's there. I think if I set up a regular gaming night, or if I say like every let's just say every 2 weeks on a Wednesday or something like that, then maybe that might work a bit better, and then at least it's kind of in the diary. My local gaming group meets on a Friday night, and Friday nights are not necessarily the best night in the world for going gaming. Jess is saying it's too much pressure now. Yeah, Ed's saying terrain is huge in Necromunda. Oh, I'm well aware terrain is huge, but I'm not sure kind of like I was thinking more about, well, if you've already got some terrain, technically you could play the game kind of thing. John saying, I'm just waiting until things settle down here, but I've got multiple projects near completion. When the time arrives, I'll be ready to clear out a bunch of stuff and look to new projects. Yes. VG says, Andy, you only live once. I never thought getting all my minis painted would be a motivation for me to want to believe in reincarnation. Haxan says, isn't Necromunda really rules heavy? That's what puts me off. I think it can be, mate. I think it can be quite not crunchy is the word I'm looking for, not clunky. I think it can be quite crunchy, but I think a lot of people like that type of stuff. So yeah. RG says, I had a big push to sort Carnivale scenery, FDM things, a little while back, but I need to have another big push to get it over the line. Rugby World Cup is getting in the way at the moment. James is saying, I'm absolutely guilty of all of this. I'm time poor and enjoy buying the shiny new things just to try and enjoy the ride and not stress about it. Worst case, I could just sell it all. Yeah, I've definitely gone through those phases, mate. I definitely buy a lot less these days than I used to. Partially because I don't have the same amount of disposable income, but partially because I'm a bit wiser and a bit a bit more tuned into not getting involved in the fear of missing out stuff anymore. But yeah, you can definitely. I know what you mean about being time poor and actually sometimes buying of things just to make you still feel connected to the hobby. Mark says, I did a Settlers of Catan for a friend for his birthday. That was fun. Nice one, mate. VGC and Declan commented on Jacko's video. He's been really enjoying the Minecraft videos and he was so stoked to hear his shout out. Thanks very much, mate. Jackson did read it, but I don't think he knows how to necessarily to reply back from his iPad. So I'll have to get him to do it on the computer or something like that. But yeah, he was over the moon to have somebody commenting on his video, mate. He's got another couple of Minecraft videos that he's been working on as well, so he's enjoying doing those at the moment. RG says, as a child I was happy with dyed sheet over polystyrene ceiling tiles for hills and boxes for buildings. Now I need tonally correct 3D scenery to play. What went wrong? I think some of that comes back to what we were talking about last week about, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, about how how sort of the hobby playing out on YouTube and on social media has made our expectations of our games like a little bit like where in the past you would just get everything built up and stick it on the table and have a bit of fun, and it might not be perfectly painted or it might not even be painted, where now there's almost this, like, you see everybody else with these fantastic boards and they've got smoke blowing across the boards and they've got LEDs in the buildings, and like before you know it, it's like you've got to have some kind of museum quality table just to play a game on. Fiji saying, hearing someone on YouTube say his name was the highlight of his day. This is what I was telling Jackson about it, actually. I said, it's really nice that you've done it. I said, imagine how you would feel if somebody said your name on a video. It's quite a nice thing to do. So yeah, he was over the moon. He's enjoying making these YouTube videos. I think he's kind of he's settled down now in not taking it quite so seriously as he was when he was on school holidays, and thinking that he has to release like every day of the same week, like every week on the same day at the same time and all that kind of stuff, and everything has to be a series. I think he's just starting to just enjoy it and have fun with it now. Gary's saying, with Necromunda it's all about the 3D terrain and lots of it, plus I do paint extra gangs for my non-wargaming friends. Currently I'm building a 32 by 32 board. After this it's Ash wastes time. There's definitely a point though where you almost forget about playing the game, and we put so much effort into getting to the point where playing the game almost feels like a bit of a come down at that point. You just want to keep building new projects. AMC says, my wife hates Kickstarter. I can only tell her I won the game in a lottery so many times. John says, I have to make a vow not to buy any new models or miniatures and put the money towards some display cases and travel and storage cases. And a new ergonomic chair for my workbench and an airbrush. Yeah. Storage is something that is definitely becomes a problem. Vijay says, I'm not feeling the urge to buy that I used to, which is great, but I've also no motivation to work on what I have already. Is there a healthy balance? I don't know. I know exactly what you mean, mate. Like there's times where I think, maybe to reignite my kind of, my hobby juices, if you like, I need to buy something new. I need something to get interested in. And it's like, yeah, but what about all the new things that you've bought that you've not done anything with, kind of thing? I completely get what you're saying. Audrey says, what's the right number of unpainted models? N+1, where N is the number you have now. And James says, I know exactly what you mean about making plans. Even with a card game I play that has 2 nights a week locally, I never get to it. Family life with young ones is mentally a lot. Yeah, it's really funny, isn't it? Like it seems like it should be dead easy just to go, it is. I'll finish work for the day. I've made dinner. You're all right putting the little one to bed, love. And yeah, I'm just gonna go down the club and play a few games, kind of thing. But it's just not that easy. Nathan says, I recently purchased the Dead Zone 2-player starter set and got the whole thing painted in 10 days. Massive achievement for me, as I usually do bits and bobs then move on. It's given me a kick to do more. Well done, mate. Well, you should be proud of yourself as well. Joseph saying, I always have my main project and 1 or 2 things on the side to paint when the main project becomes a drag and I need a break, but you still want to paint. I think that's a healthy way to do it, but then I would ask you, if you're a gamer, for example, if you're painting to play games, how many different games do you play? Because my problem is I want to play them all. I honestly, I find all games interesting. There's something in every game that interests me, even if it's not necessarily like sort of getting in heavy into the game. And in the line of work that I do doing this, I get exposed to all those different things, and all those companies send me kind of press emails and telling me about all the new things that's coming out. Some of them kindly send me some stuff to review or to look at, and before you know it, you've kind of, it's like you spread too thin across too many things. Like you can't really see on the camera there, but above me here, you can see this one here. I've got this. In fact, let me lift it down so you can see it. I've got a whole bunch of these pictures here on my wall, which is kind of like Malifaux stuff, which I absolutely love. Malifaux's world and universe, that kind of setting. And let me just, I'll get one of the other ones down just to kind of show as well, from different shelves and things. So I basically made these myself. And this is all like just different. I love Malifaux, and I never seemed to get round to playing or painting it as often as I would like to, which is one of the reasons why I popped that picture in the thumbnail today. Let me just put this back up here. In fact, I'm going to stand so I don't stretch my back. I would love to kind of to just dive into it again, like I used to when I used to play it back in the first version. But there's so many other things. Like I'm loving Shatterpoint as well. Like I love Star Wars. I'm enjoying kind of sort of getting the games ready to go and things. It just never feels like there's enough time to get around everything. Vijay says, I'm hoping to fire up my 3D printer again. It's only an old frozen Mono 2K. That's all what I've got really. Just my Mars 2 Pro is an old 2K one. If I get back into it hard, I'll upgrade. Until then, as long as it works, I'll be happy. That's exactly where I am, mate. It was like I was looking the other day, and technology's moved on so far, and the quality of the stuff you can print now is fantastic, but I haven't been using it enough to be worrying about it just yet. Where I might get to that point. Let's have a little look here. Ed's saying, get a regular game night in. If there's a local club you like, make it there. Once you're in the habit of playing, it becomes easier as you're in contact with people who want to play. I think it's like I say, my local club meets on a Friday, and Friday is not really a good night to be going out gaming. Like if a Friday, if we can get a babysitter, I mean, my wife will go out on a Friday, or maybe my wife will go out on a Friday like with her friends, because and then we get to have like the weekend together or something like that. Like and that makes it sound like she goes out and I don't. But I just don't have friends to go out with, so that's why I would never ever stop her going out, kind of thing. Mark says, my mini factory is one of my favourite places to browse, but I've bought a lot and haven't printed. Yeah, there is that as well. Let's have a little look here. Where was that one? VG was just saying, please tell me Grimdark Future Core Set doesn't have humans in it. I forget what it was, mate, actually. It might have. You know what it is? I don't think I'm not sure if they're humans. I think there's like their version of Necrons, and I think it's their version of like Tau, who are a bit more like samurai looking type things. But I don't think they're necessarily human. Let's have a look here. John says, was one-page rules included in your previous video on games that are free? It got like an honourable mention, mate, because technically it was free, but the advanced rules weren't free. But I believe that the advanced rules are free now, to be fair. And since it's been 3rd edition, from what I understand anyway, the advanced rules are not necessarily what, like, they're not needed as such, kind of thing. And the fact that you can now get free miniatures as well just kind of adds to it. So I think I included it as an honourable mention kind of thing. Tony says, what's this playing the game which you speak of? I know I'm the oddball in the community, but I love to focus on single projects and see them through. I wouldn't see you an oddball, mate. There's plenty of people who only like to paint and not play games. Greg said, having the person in your group or club or friends that's planning and organising a game meet is vital. My background was RPG, so I've been wrangling cats since high school. Yeah, I just don't have the social circle. That's the problem. Archie said, this is an odd community. I was only here for the condiment collection talk. It seems to have gone off topic. Mark saying, that's like my Kingdom Death. I was super excited for that one, but then by the time I got it, didn't want to do it, so I have only 2 minis from it painted. Yes. One is Mother and the other is Behind the Wall. Yeah. He says, I've got the Kickstarter box, but I've only painted from the expansion. It's amazing, isn't it, mate? That much stuff comes, it's almost debilitating. And what do I do next? Jonathan says, I found having too many unfinished projects adds a stress I don't need, so consolidating and focusing really helps me. A good clear out I find very cathartic. Yeah, I agree. It's the reason I don't have like lots of sort of half-finished projects on my desk. It just feels like work that I haven't done yet. So I tend to only have on my desk what I'm working on at that particular time. VG says, yeah, I stopped going to local board game nights. I was finding that I wasn't into the games they play. People are nice, but they play a lot of popular board games that don't have themes that interest me. Yeah, I mean, it's the guys at my local group, really lovely set of guys, but they seem, there's a big chunk play some 40k stuff. There's a big chunk I'm massively interested in Conquest, and I feel like whilst I enjoy playing Conquest and I think the miniatures are fantastic, I'm just not sure it's the game for me to be kind of like devoted into. I bought the starter set and I built up my starter set stuff and I've played with it. But when it come to actually painting it, I couldn't really motivate myself to paint it actually. And I was thinking actually maybe this is not the game for me in terms of like committing money and time and effort. Like if I only get to go to the games club once in a blue moon kind of thing, I'm not sure that I want Conquest to be the game that I pick up. And then when I look around, everybody seems to be in their little cliques of playing the games that they like to play kind of thing. And I feel like I'm on the outskirts of, I don't want to be the guy that comes in and goes, never mind all the games that you play, folks, what about my stuff? Like, I don't really want to be that guy. And I think I've just kind of backed away from it because of that. Yeah, VG says, it's great to hear Jacko enjoying it, mate. He definitely has charisma for it. Angela commented too, and that's that he's very confident on camera. I think he just like, I think for kids these days, it's like they watch so much YouTube, and obviously he sees me doing it now as well, that he just, it doesn't really faze him. I don't think he's worried about like talking to a crowd kind of thing, really. Big Dave says, Mantic previewing the Twilight King is going to eat up what little hobby time I have. I really can't help myself sometimes. Yeah, some of those models do look very nice, actually. And Tony saying, apologies for doing the funky scenics and terrain. You never apologise, mate. He says, I just enjoy doing that stuff. I wouldn't expect anyone to do it or compare it to me. I love seeing people enjoying the hobby their way. That's what this is all about. It's only about people enjoying what they do in their spare time kind of thing. It doesn't really matter what you do as long as you're enjoying what you do. But it should never feel stressful, or it should never feel like a job. It should never feel like hard work, if you like. John says, I've got 3 projects on the go. The main one is my 40k Death Guard. Second's my American War of Independence, which is only about 15 per side. And the last is this month's challenge. That feels manageable, mate. Peter saying, one of the great things of doing historical gaming is that if you want a new game, you can just buy a rule book and use the minis you already have. A US Marine is a US Marine. I do kind of for me though, part of the wanting a new game is wanting a new palette of things to paint as well, wanting a new aesthetic of the type of miniatures that I'm kind of building and playing with. So it's not just a case of like, oh, I've got all these 40k minis, I think I'll use them to play Firefight by Mantic. Right, now I fancy a new game, so what I'll do is I'll take all them same models and I'll go and play one-page rules, Grimdark Future. Like, for me, like part of moving and wanting to play all the different things is wanting to build and paint all the different minis as well. Yeah, Peter says it really helps with the try something new for something new sake. Yeah, I get that, man, to be fair, mate. Luke Pryor, somehow, mate, I managed to miss your comment there. Nice to see you in, fella. How are you doing? RG says, I want to play a lot of games. My kids do Warhammer and realise that I will play a Dead Zone with them. 5 Parsecs, Carnivore, 7 TV, Pikeman's Lament. Enjoy them all. And RG says, would love Star Wars, but I know it would be another distraction. Yeah. VG says, I'm off to LA and San Francisco for a weekend in early October to see a couple of artists I dig. Hopefully that will kick me out of my rut. Yeah, sometimes it breaks as like sort of, a break's as good as a rest or something, isn't it? Something like that. Joseph says, Malifaux is great and those picks are awesome and a great idea. It's one of my 3 staples. Firefight and Battletech are the other 2. Though all my playing is casual with friends, so no pressure. And VG says, yeah, Tau versus Kron, I can get down with that. Can you pop the link into the starter set? Where was that? I just jumped ahead there somewhere. Into the chat. I can, mate. Yeah, let me just... what I will do is I will find that page again and I will go to the link and get started here. And there we go. So there is... Whoops. There is the link for the one-page rules getting started sets. Mark Burton says, love playing Battletech as a kid, but the people I played with moved away. Yeah, unfortunately, people do that, mate, don't they? Clyde Dashin, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. He said, steak sauce fund. Thank you very much, mate. I will invest in a quality steak sauce. Thank you very much. Jonathan saying, same goes for painting. Set up and just do 5 minutes. Soon turns into 2 hours before you know it. Yeah. RG saying, I've got a partially painted Firefight starter set. I never got to the table. Yeah, and VJ saying, yeah, I don't want to be that. Hey, I find your games boring. Let's play my games, guy. No, I'm the same. Which is why I really need to just find people that play the games that I play, really. And it might mean I have to travel a bit further and I need to put more effort into it. But I guess what I'm trying to do is kind of finish painting up my miniatures and then I'll go kind of looking, I suppose. Luke says, I'm actually painting tonight. Started a hero from Oathsworn, which arrived last week. Very nice, mate, and well done on the painting. Evil Bear War Games, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? Mark saying, Dead Zone, that's another Kickstarter I never started. Oh, have I caught up with the chat? Phew, I've actually caught up. I can stop and have a drink now. Oh, thank you for that. So yeah, so that's kind of what I was talking about. Like, so I guess to kind of wrap up that topic, we can still keep chatting about it, but to wrap it up, do you need to be focused? The emphasis is on do you need to do it? No, you definitely don't need to be focused. You should be having fun with your hobby, and if you're enjoying it, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. But do you need to be focused on your hobby? Sometimes a bit of focus isn't a bad thing, and for me, I definitely need to focus. I need to narrow down my kind of spread of stuff. I need to narrow down my spread of stuff of what I do on the channel as well, to be fair, because I'm not really serving you as a viewer by just constantly swapping and changing the kind of the games I'm talking about, and constantly sort of like, I might make a video about a game and you go, oh, that sounds really good, I'd love to know more about that, and then I don't make any more videos about it because I'm often talking about something else. So even like narrowing that down, it's one of the reasons I've been looking at more into my 3D printing stuff, is because like it opens up a world of different bits and pieces, and I can, because I don't game as much as I would like to, I can talk about the hobby side of things a bit more, and so that's where sort of some of this work's come into it, really. Jonathan saying, I'm off now, a long day, but thanks for the great chat. Take care, buddy, nice to have you in. RG saying, with no hobby space, the getting started and packing up is a big hurdle. I can imagine, mate, yeah. If I can get a few days clear and the missus is not around, I can get a decent shift on and then feel so much better. Yeah, I think sometimes the sort of unpacking and packing all the time doesn't help with the mood. VG said, I have to say I've been making some solid progress on my Netflix watch list and my bookshelf backlog. Nice one. Highways World says, I honestly like the variety of games you cover. I like covering lots of different things, but I do feel that I end up paying lip service to some things and then never really... It makes it look like I'm just sort of jumping around rather than actually kind of like giving usable information or useful information. Like, I think when my channel was growing at its best, I was making like follow-up videos to videos that did well. So things like 5 rules you got wrong in Kill Team and 5 more rules you got wrong in Kill Team, or talking about Shadespire and trying to help, or talking about painting, like getting a starter set and painting up the components for it and things like that. So I'm not talking about just like I'm only going to talk about one game, but I might need to just kind of do things in bursts. So like maybe have have a Malifaux week, or have a Malifaux month or something, and then maybe have a Kings of War month or something like that, and then maybe have a 1-page rules or a 3D printing month or something like that, and where the live streams are just still kind of general random topics, but the video content is a little bit more focused. So if you're enjoying what I'm doing, there's going to be a nice little chunk of it, and then if you're not enjoying it, you won't have to wait very long, and there will be a chunk of something else kind of thing. Clyde says, I'm glad I don't have a 3D printer. Was thinking to myself it would be amusing to do a thriller-based zombie army. Yeah. Peter Cooman said 18 models done, posted in the group on Facebook. Nice one, mate. I'll check them out. Joseph says, your jumping around makes me feel better when I discover something new and start jumping around. I think that's the problem. I think like this channel's always been around like how I am and what I do when it comes to hobby and stuff, and I think I've just always jumped around, and whether that's a good thing for a YouTube channel or whether it's just me kind of showcasing my own feelings and is everybody the same kind of thing, I don't think I'm really ever going to change that much. I'd like to be more organised and stuff, but as long as I'm working on my own, I think I'll always end up just jumping around all over the place. Peter just having a bit of a natter there as well. Let me have a quick drink here. So speaking of jumping around, folks, so for those of you that are into Malifaux and stuff, if you're into weird game stuff, so I played a game a while ago called Vagrant Song, and Vagrant Song is a fantastic board game by Weird Games. It's a bit of a boss battler. I'm going to do a video about it later this week, because they have a Kickstarter which starts tomorrow. Let me just, for those of you that are not aware of what Vagrant Song is, let's get it up on the website. And so Vagrant Song is a game which had some really, really cool artwork. It's a bit of a boss battler. It comes with like a scenario book, which is really cool because you just kind of you flip through that ring-bound book. The playing pieces are like acrylic perspex sort of standees, but they're cut out with art on them. I wonder if there's any kind of close-ups of the parts. You can kind of see them here in this image. This is what they're like. They're sort of like little acrylic stand-up things. And essentially, you're kind of like playing the part of like characters on a train, and it's basically haunted by what they call haunts. They're kind of like lingering around, and as you play through the kind of the campaign and the storyline, you're trying to sort of free some of these spirits, and some of them you got to kind of face off against as well. But it's a really, really good game, really fantastic quality components, and me and Lou really enjoyed playing it. They do, however, though, and I'll just play this along in the background so you can kind of see some of the artwork and stuff. They do also have an expansion which is coming. But one of the things about Vagrant Song was it was known for two things. One, it was a really good game, and two, it basically sold out and you could never get your hands on it. And when the reprint came out, it was sold out and you couldn't get your hands on it. So what they've decided to do for this expansion is they decided to go to Kickstarter, more because it's hard to estimate just how many people are interested in a kind of an expansion for a game that they struggle to get their hands on in the first place. Obviously, it's a bit more available now because it's been out for quite a while. So yeah, so they're going to Kickstarter with it, and you can kind of see in the background there's new scenarios. They've sent me out a copy of the of like a prototype version of it, and like I say, I'll be doing a video about it this week. So yeah, check that out if that's something that's up your street. No miniatures to paint. So it's kind of like, let me just skip ahead a little bit. But you can see the artwork. The artwork is very much kind of what's called, I think it's called like rubber hose is the style of the artwork. But it's just the components are just beautiful quality. Really, really nice. And I love that kind of style. And these are the different characters that you can play as. So yes, we'll be chatting about that later this week. But yeah, if you're more into your board games or you want something where you don't have to paint the miniatures, this is a perfect opportunity to try something different. RG saying, I think a lot of people jump around, only a few of us admit it. VG says, if Jack was looking for anything else to play, Declan is a huge fan of the various physics simulators. Jack might find some of them interesting. I'll let him know, mate. I'll let him know. Blizzard is saying, slapped a gunmetal base on his whole Grey Knights army tonight. Got more hobby done tonight than I have in the last 8 months. Yes, mate. VJ is saying, is Vagrant Song on Tabletop Simulator? I've got a feeling it might be, mate, actually. He said, I think I would give it a go, but definitely needs a teach. I think you can play it single player as well, mate, to be fair. Because it's a co-op boss battler type thing, so you can play it solo as well. And Clyde saying, always love supporting weird games. Yeah, I must admit, I wouldn't necessarily say I was a fan of companies, but I am a fan of the work that weird games do, to be fair. Yeah. Gary Jensen has just super chatted there as well. Thank you very much, mate, for the super chat. He says, for the Brown Source Fund. I'm assuming that will ping up on the screen any minute now, but it's pinged up on mine in the chat there. So thank you very much, mate. There it is. Cheers, buddy. And VJ says, speaking of acrylic standees, I backed Dungeon Cart. It's a Mario Kart board game. Bring it on. It sounds interesting, mate. I wonder what that one's going to be like. But Vagrant Song, there was just something about it where the quality of the components inside, the quality of the actual box that it comes in, the acrylic standees, it came with like a little knapsack bag for putting all of the tokens and stuff in it. The quality of the cards, the board was really nice quality. I think of all the different board games I've got, that was the one where I would say, like, you know when you just get a nice feel for something because it feels like there's been a bit of love and kind of heart put into like it's not being made to cut corners and try and keep the cost down. It's like we want to make the game be this quality, and if that's what it costs, that's what it costs, kind of thing. But then I don't remember it being particularly expensive either. John says, I do focus a lot as I play and paint historicals, so I need to do a lot of research into uniforms and formations and weapons. Yeah, and I think sometimes sort of research and looking into things like that is certainly something that helps you focus on stuff. And it's also part of the hobby just to kind of, like, just to do that research. Mark saying, Robo Rally's one I printed minis for and painted, but I've never played. But third-party mini called out me to paint. There's nothing wrong with that, mate, is there? There's nothing wrong in doing that kind of stuff. So, what else would you like to chat about tonight, folks? I feel like I've run out of steam on my focus conversation now. And as I say, I've been spending most of this week doing some 3D printing, so I've obviously not played any games. I've not painted any minis. I have been printing off some storage stuff, which I think some of you in the Facebook group and the Patreon will already know about. I don't want to show it off tonight because, again, I want to be making a video about it as well. But I must admit, I've been super happy with how my storage stuff has turned out for my Shatterpoint stuff. So yeah, I've been pleased with that. The printers been going non-stop. The FDM printers have been going non-stop all this week. I'll need to turn them off now, so because you hear them running in the background when I'm recording videos and stuff. So I've left them off tonight, and I'll be leaving them off while I'm recording stuff this week and that. But I'll get back onto them. Luke saying, yeah, storage for the win. I love me some storage. Yeah, you and me both, mate. And VG saying, so you need the core game to play Encore, or will the Kickstarter have a pledge for core and Encore? You do need the core game to play the Encore, which is just an expansion. It's just like an expansion with more scenarios and extra characters. However, I would assume that they'll probably have some kind of pledge where you can back for both, I would imagine. James Bray says, how many victory royales, and mate? I've had quite a few, mate, if I'm being honest. I'm doing alright, actually. I had a few games with one of my older sons, Sam, the other day. Might have been Friday. We were playing Friday tea time, and we got a couple of victory royales then as well. We're doing alright, mate. We're doing alright. Don't you worry about it. Cardos is saying, late dropping in today, worked 105 hours in 6 days, so had to nap. That is some going, that, buddy. VG says, Robo Rally's a great game, definitely a classic for me. I put in a pre-order for some of the new boards that are coming out. I don't think I've ever played Robo Rally. Mark's in, there's some really good storage Kickstarters if you want to do that. Not sure if it's good to do or just to buy storage. You know what, mate? I find that with the 3D printed stuff, if you find something that works, it becomes really, really affordable to print yourself like a full solution. So, for example, the things I've been printing off, you can print off storage cases, and then you can print off like trays for miniatures, and things like token holders and stuff like that. But then you can print off like storage racks. So what you can do is you can have your case to take to the games club, and you can have all of your different miniatures in racks, just kind of like racked up. So basically you go, all right, I'm playing Star Wars tonight. I'll take my Star Wars miniatures out. I'll take my Star Wars token tray out. I'll put it in my case and I'll off to the club kind of thing. And then I come back and next week, I'm going to a friend's house to do a bit of painting at the weekend. So I'll take out my little painting rack which holds my paints, and I'll take out the little storage tray that holds my brushes, and I'll take out the rack of miniatures that I'm going to be painting, and I'll put them in my case. So I find that if you buy into a bit of like a 3D printing ecosystem when it comes to storage, you can really pay off dividends rather than having to keep going back and buying more and more stuff. And it's quite economical. Of course, you do need to have a 3D printer, so there is that, or you need to know somebody that has a 3D printer. But that aside, I find it depends what you want. If you just want a bag to put stuff in, you can just buy a bag to put stuff in, kind of thing. But I like the flexibility that the 3D printing stuff gives us. Peter saying, Sharp's rifles, I used GW Caliban Green with a wall flesh highlight and it did the job. John saying, I used army paint as speed paints for orc skin in Hessian Jaegers. Clyde says, thank you both, I have both those so I can give them a go. Nice one. And RG says, you encouraged me to get an FDM printer when you did the best hobby tool you got. Mine has run non-stop since then. Other than holiday or breakdown, I have an Excel scheduling tool to maximize time. Do you know what, mate? It's something I'll be chatting about as well in the printing video, as well as about actually scheduling how you're going to run them, because you can really maximize the workload that you get out of a 3D printer. Like if you're doing a big project, like sort of printing a case or something like a storage case, which has got multiple parts, there's no point setting something away before you go to bed that's going to finish in like 2 or 3 hours time. You want to be setting something away that takes 12 hours to print, so when you wake up in the morning it's kind of finished. So you're going to go for dinner, set the printer away, then I'm off to bed, I get up in the morning and the print's finished, kind of thing, or it's about finished. And that way you're maximizing dead time that you can't kind of, that you wouldn't be using anyway. And then during the day when you're around, you do all the little smaller pieces where you can change it every few hours, kind of thing. VG says, once I get the resin printer set back up, I'm planning to get an FDM and probably be my Christmas present to myself. I've certainly found that you don't need to spend a lot of money on FDM printing to get some really, really good results. James says, shout out to Tony Howell, who answered a question about decals that I had in great detail. Thanks, Tony. Hey, Andy, plug the Patreon. Okay, I'm plugging the Patreon. I do have a Patreon, folks. So yeah, it's... in fact, I'll even... I don't normally do this. I used to have Christian kind of plugging all the Patreon stuff. So I never used to have to do any of this kind of stuff. But... so yeah, so I'm not good at plugging my own stuff. Let me log into it, and I'll put the. In fact, is it just .com/BlackJack Legacy? I think it's just that. There it is. So I will plug the Patreon. There you go. It's in the chat. I do have a Patreon. It starts from as little as $2 a month. $2 a month. What can you buy for $2 a month? You can't even get a cup of coffee for $2 a month now. Everybody else has put their prices up. I've kept the entry level at $2 because I think it's a nice way to kind of support me. But I realise that people don't have vast amounts of spare money these days. And the Patreon, right from the $2. Entry level gives you access to a really, really lovely Patreon Discord server where everyone's dead friendly, love chatting about lots and lots of different games, giving each other advice on how to paint certain things, which games they're enjoying, giving a little bit of feedback if somebody wants to, like, what do you think of this thing I've painted, or maybe if they're having a bit of trouble with a bit of 3D printing or something like that, or if they just want somewhere to if you just want somewhere to kind of hang out and talk with like-minded folks. If you're having a bit of a bad day, if you're having a bit of a downer, it's somewhere cool to kind of hang out and be able to just air your worries a little bit as well, and have a friendly shoulder to kind of speak to someone. So yes, please do check it out if that's something you think you would like to support. It supports me and helps me kind of keep going at this full time, but it also gives you access to a really, really friendly bunch of folks. And if people are supporting me, what more do you need to know about them other than they must be a lovely person to start with? RGC and storage. I'm on really useful boxes and magnetic sheets. It works well for me. I've done that in the past, mate, as well. But what I find is things roll about inside of boxes, and they're not the easiest things. The stuff I'm kind of working on now is a bit more niche, a bit more boutique. Luke's saying the hero I'm painting has white cloaks over his armor. I love painting white, but hated it when I was a younger gamer. Yeah, I've got certain colours that I just love painting as well. White isn't one of them, I should add. Mark says, I do that. I start an 8-hour print while I'm working, and then I can get a batch to work on for the night or the weekend. There's a few things that I kind of learned through 3D printing, where now I absolutely know that I can trust the 3D printer to work with. I can kind of go overnight set it away and not worry about it, and know I'm not going to come back and just see a mess of like a bird's nest of crap everywhere kind of thing, because I kind of trust the 3D printer. I've learned that if the first couple of layers go down all right, I'm generally not going to have any problems, and I can trust it and leave it. And I think that takes a bit of like, once you've worked with the printers a little bit, you start to kind of know the quirks and the little bits and pieces of like, oh, that started looking a bit funny. It's probably not going to this is not going to end well kind of thing. Yeah, RG says that's my schedule. And blackout times for when I'm at work and not around. Also has a wait warning so it doesn't run out of filament whilst I'm asleep or at work as well. Yeah, the slicer software generally gives you a good measure of how much PLA you're going to use. And these new Elegoo reels that I've been getting have got like a bit like of a grading down the side, which tells you roughly how much is left on the spool. The older ones never used to have that, so it's quite nice. John saying I need to get on Discord more. I forget I have it. Yeah, I must admit I would love to kind of. It's funny when I had a full-time job, I felt like I was skiving from work and like chatting in the Discord quite a lot. And then when I started doing this full-time, I felt bad skiving from the work and chatting in the Discord. But I do need to balance it out a little bit. Clyde saying, yeah, you can also show what you're working on with each other. More places to show off your nice work. Join the jolly Discord, yeah. RG says, have a filament dryer running to improve quality. Biggest improvement was replacing the 0.4 nozzle for a 0.6 one. I do have some bigger nozzles and some smaller nozzles actually, but I've never changed it. I've just stuck with the 0.4. But quality's always been pretty sharp to me. Clyde saying you get to chat with the infamous hobbyists like VG and Morph. You certainly do. And VG's saying money's tight, but the legacy Discord is worth every cent. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support, but I appreciate you being around and being part of the community more. Mark saying, yeah, once you have it dialed in, you can trust it. My printer also has a spaghetti cam, so it'll stop if it detects that. Yeah, I think I tend to think that the newer printers now, the quality of the print isn't necessarily any better, but all of the technology that's on them for like detecting like failures, you get like LiDAR cams on some of them now and things. You get direct drive sort of print heads and things like that, better quality components, auto leveling beds, but the actual print quality itself hasn't really improved a great deal. So that's why I kind of just persevere with the old machines. I've got I've got two Elegoo Neptune 2s. I bought one when it was first released, and I bought a second one in the sale at Christmas just gone. And the second one I bought in the sale, I think cost me, I think it was £87 shipped, like £87 for a 3D printer. And obviously I had complete faith and trust in it because I already had one of them. I bought a second one because then it really speeded up the projects I was doing. I was doing a really big kind of like house print, which was in multiple parts, and I probably shaved like 2 weeks off the project time by buying a second printer. And I've done the similar thing when I've been printing out the storage case and stuff. Like, it only took me like a couple of days to have everything done for it because I got two printers kind of running away. And I find that if you get a printer with a really big bed, you don't get the benefit of that big bed, because if you put like multiple things on it to maximize the print bed, it just takes longer to print them all kind of thing. RG saying using kitchen scales and knowing the tear weight of the spool and knowing to switch out or schedule the jobs differently. Yeah, definitely, you can definitely do that as well. I tend to eyeball it if I'm honest. And if it's getting a bit low and I think, oh, this is a bigger print, I just take the reel off and use that for a smaller job. Peter saying no problem. It really depends what look you're going for. Or you're talking about the uniform stuff. RG says the 0.6 nozzle gave me the same quality with a 30 to 40% speed improvement. Interesting, mate. I'll have to. I might give it a try at some point when it's something I'm not too important with. And Mark saying I have the CR10s and a Bamboo X1. I've heard good things about the Bamboo ones. John saying I have a Prusa Mark III filament printer. I never used it. You've got to give it a try, mate. Prusa's a good quality ones as well. Elegoo ones are kind of at the cheap end, but they work really well, and I just always stuck with it, with the Elegoo stuff. I even use Elegoo branded filament now, not because it's like I feel like I should use it for that reason, but it's cheap and it works really well, and they come with like cardboard spools as well, so for recycling purposes and stuff, it's nice that you're not just chucking away those plastic spools all the time. Joseph as well, I just saw just pop up at the top of the screen there. Joseph just joined the Patreon. Thank you very much, mate. Look forward to seeing you in the Discord chat as well. Thank you very much for joining. And I think, folks, we're starting to kind of, I think we're starting to kind of run up to the end of the stream now. Yeah, I've got a million things to be getting on with this week in terms of video stuff. I've got a nice reveal coming later this week as well for characters for Moonstone. You might have seen there's a couple of channels have been doing some Moonstone coverage. Moonstone has a Kickstarter coming up soon where there will be a brand new faction will be coming out for the game. And a few channels have been asked if they want to kind of reveal some of those new characters. So I've got a character to reveal to people that nobody else will have seen yet, and I think it's one of the favourites from that particular new faction as well. So I'm looking forward to sharing that. We've got the stuff about Vagrant Song to be talking about later this week as well. I've got all my 3D printing stuff that I've been working on as well. So yeah, I've got my hands full with so it goes saying feast or famine sometimes, but yeah, there definitely is going to be one of these week. So yeah, I've got plenty to be working on. Yeah, RG saying you'll need to redial in your settings, do a temperature tower and work from there. Your end will determine the line speed you can achieve. And what I'm finding with printing speed at the minute is I've left a lot of things just stock. And generally what I'll do is once it looks like it's printing alright and the first layer's going down, I tend to turn the speed up in the printer, so I've been going up to like 130% of the speed. I can't remember what the line speed's set at. To say what the 130% is, but it's printing pretty good, and obviously that's bringing down some of the times as well. But yeah, it might be nice to experiment with a 0.6 when I get a bit more time. Clyde saying looking forward to the videos. VJ saying he's getting close to getting the lad ready for school anyway. And John says I was watching Discourse Minis yesterday. They've released a codex for Tyranids and removed all free items from the website for them. I don't know, mate. I'm not that close to the game, to be fair. I don't think. Have they really removed the free stuff? I'll tell you what. I'm going to have a look because I'm pretty sure that they would. I'm assuming they would still be there. So let's have a little look. So let's have a quick look on here. So Warhammer 40,000. Have they got gaming rules? Oh, they're just that. Where would it be? Is it in the? I'll tell you what. We'll go to Warhammer Community. We'll go to downloads. Warhammer 40,000. Just. We've got core rules. We've got there's all the different armies. So we'll have a look at Tyranids still there. Ah, so they have taken it away then. So they've taken. Oh no, they might not have done. Let's have a look. I've skimmed over it. Ah, so they have it. That's a bit of a stinger. So basically, if you want to play that now, you need to. Buy the boot now. Yeah, that stinks. I'm not a big fan of that. Like, they should have just left the rules up. Because at the end of the day, like, the point costs have changed and some of the rules have changed. They should have just left the old stuff up. That is a bit of a nasty trick, that one. Clyde saying I wish they'd release Space Hulk. I want to buy it someday before I die. I might be selling my Space Hulk, mate, to be fair. I've got Space Hulk and I've never ever used it. So, yeah, I think I'll be selling mine soon. And yeah, VGC makes me glad I grabbed all the free army stuff and backed it up in my Google Drive. I think I might have to do the same thing, mate, now. I never even thought about doing that. And plus, yeah, it's been removed from the app as well. Well, that stinks. I think that's a terrible, terrible move. Never mind. Anyway, folks. So yeah, I'm going to call it a night there. Thank you very much for everybody that came in tonight. Thank you for those of you that super chatted, pledged tonight, super chatted tonight. Thank you as well to Joseph there as well, joining the Patreon. I look forward to chatting to you in the Discord group, mate. Thank you to all my current supporters. Thank you to all my my YouTube members and the folks that subscribe and everybody that comes in here on a Monday and chats away, because without you lot there wouldn't be much point in me doing this. So thank you very much, folks. Take care. I look forward to giving you some videos this week as well, and I look forward to seeing you all again next Monday night, where no doubt we'll be chatting about many more different bits of hobby topics. So take care, folks, and I'll see you then.